Jonathan Jones is a young entrepreneur who is already equipping other millennials with tools for success. He's written a great book called Process, 14 Surprisingly Simple Behaviors to Skyrocket Millennials to Success. You'll meet Jonathan Jones here today on Babbie's House. Stay tuned. It's all coming to you right now.
Babbie's house, Babbie's house. Every day is filled with possibility. At Babbie's house, Babbie's house. Everybody is family. Welcome to Babbie's house.
Hello, everyone. I'm Babbie Mason, and welcome to Babbie's House. I'm so happy that you've joined me today. And particularly for today's show, Jonathan Jones is my very special guest. He's a young entrepreneur, and he's an author, already written his first book. He's not even out of his 20s yet, and he's authored a great book called Process. And in his book, he reveals that process is not just a concept, but it's a lifestyle. We'll hear what all that is about when I talk with Jonathan Jones here today on Babbie's House. Well, I want to kick things off with one of my favorite songs. And it just lets you know, it reminds you that wherever you are, God is there. You can cast all your cares upon him, knowing that he cares for you.
In these holy moments, God is moving by his grace. I can see the glory of his presence on each face. In the beauty of holiness, no other name compares to our God, to our God. The Lord is here, the Lord is here. He is awesome in this place. The Lord is here, moving among us, descending upon us. Render praise, bless his name. The Lord is here. Sing it together. He is here. The Lord is here. Awesome in this place. The Lord is here. He's moving among us and descending upon us. Render praise and bless his name. The Lord is here. While the Lord is waiting, just surrender everything. No need for delaying. You can trust him with your need. Will you give him your all today? Open your heart and say, oh, you are God. For you are here. Jesus, you are here. You are awesome in this place. Yes, you are here. You're moving among us and descending upon us. We render praise and bless your name, for you are here. Here in your presence, right from the start. Here in your throne room, right here in my heart. You're in my heart. Oh, you are here, Jesus. You are here. render praise and bless your name, for you are here.
Welcome back to the show. I am so grateful and so thankful to be able to introduce you to Jonathan Jones. Jonathan Jones is the author of Process. Listen to the subtitle, it really speaks volumes. 14 surprisingly simple behaviors to skyrocket millennials to success. Will you help me to welcome to Babbie's house, Jonathan Jones? Jonathan, my friend, it's good to see you.
It's good to be here.
I cannot tell you how proud I am of you, Jonathan. You've written this beautiful book called Process. And tell me, what inspired the book in the first place?
Without a doubt, it was an encouragement from my father, because he was like, son, you have a voice, you have a story to share. Somebody needs to hear it. And I was like, Dad, I don't think so. I don't think so. And then after me and him talked a little bit more, then he convinced me. Then I was like, okay, let's do it. And just with millennials having a stigma attached to it, I said, let me empower the generation.
Yeah, okay, so you mentioned that stigma that's attached to millennials. Tell us what that is.
The stigma that's said about millennials often is said that millennials are lazy, millennials are unmotivated, they're not passionate about many things, they're selfish. It's just bad news. When you hear millennials, it's just, ugh, I don't want to deal with those guys.
Is that a myth? Are you redefining that definition of what we think? I won't say we, because I am a true believer that millennials have everything that it takes to be successful. I look at people like you, Jonathan, and you and my grandson, Desmond, other people, my granddaughter who's entering into her late teens and getting ready for college. We have all the confidence in the world in you all. So tell me, what do you hope to instill? What kind of mindset do you hope to instill in millennials who are running with you?
I would hope to awaken a sleeping giant. And I say that just because, you know, we all have something that we're passionate about, and then if we're out of place, then of course we're lazy. If we're out of place, of course we're unmotivated. But then when we hone in on that key thing, that passion that wakes us up in the morning, that makes us beat our alarm clock, then all of a sudden, then it's a whole new ball game, because we're running full speed ahead. So I hope to awake that sleeping giant and empower millennials for success.
That is awesome, Jonathan Jones. I'm talking with Jonathan Jones, the author of Process, 14 surprisingly simple behaviors to skyrocket millennials to success. And you, in the table of contents, you just give this beautiful list of all the things that not just millennials, but the mothers of millennials, grandmothers of millennials need to incorporate in our lives. The first chapter is a wonderful way to begin, and you tell us to be thankful. Can you elaborate on that?
Being thankful is something that's really laid the foundation in my life, because my mother and my father and many other individuals they've placed in my life have just always brought me to a place to where I understand that being thankful is something that we should do out of privilege, because somebody takes us out to eat, if somebody does things for us that they never have to do, the instant response should be thank you.
Yes.
Or I'm very grateful for this opportunity. I'm glad to be here, as opposed to acting entitled or acting as if these individuals were supposed to give things to us or we deserved it. So I wanted to really lay the foundation with that being chapter 1, just understanding that we need to start here from the ground, and then we can build on that foundation.
Yeah. Another chapter that caught my eye is the chapter that compels us to be ourselves, to be yourselves. You know, to be yourself. Your father is a huge motivator, Dr. Fred Jones.
Yes,
he's a wonderful encourager and a motivator. He brings out the best in others. And he told me one time, he said, Babbie, be yourself. Everyone else is already taken. And and I'll tell you, that has become like a beacon in my life. I've not been one to really struggle, at least in my latter years, with my identity, but he is really stirring up helping me to understand my uniqueness and what makes me different, and to celebrate the thing that makes me different, the thing that, not to blend in, but to stand out. God created us to stand out. So tell us what we can find in that chapter that's titled Be Yourself.
Well, first of all, it's funny that you even said that quote, because I actually included that in my book. And I said, I heard this quote from somewhere, and now it all makes sense.
It all makes sense. You heard it from your father.
It all makes sense. But one thing I did with the book, at the end of each chapter, I have questions. So for individuals to self-reflect. And for the Be Yourself chapter, I help individuals self-reflect on, what that looks like in identifying their unique identity, if you will. Because I think all of us have something that's uniquely different about us, and that makes us just beautiful in our own way. But sometimes we might overlook it because it's us looking in the mirror and we see what we see. But other people who admire these things about us, they always point out, oh, I love your hair, I love your voice, things like that. It's like, well, I didn't think that was anything special. But it's like, I wish I could sing like you. So just helping people understand that, just like you shared, it's okay to be different, but own that difference. And just see that as, not being a black sheep in a negative way, but own it like, I'm prideful to be the black sheep. It's okay. I want to stand out, because if I stand out, you'll recognize me. And I think that speaks awesome. Volumes.
Man, that's awesome. I'm writing that down. That's a Jonathan Jones quote. If I stand out, you'll recognize me, and you'll recognize me not for my own applause, but you'll recognize me to the glory of God. And that's what I'm very excited that you were raised in a family of faith. Your father's a pastor, he's a minister, he's a great preacher and teacher. And one of the chapters in your book, you have entitled, Be Faithful. Can you talk about the importance of faith and being faithful has meant in your life? Talk to me about that.
Wow. So being faithful is so pivotal to me because, we serve a faithful God. And God's faithful even when we're not, which blows my mind. It just blows my mind. But understanding how faithful God is, and if we want to walk and if we want to model our lives after Christ, then we should model our lives being faithful. Because this is what he requires of us. This is what he wants to see. And then when we're faithful, then we set an example and we're a light to the world so that non-believers and believers alike can say, wait a minute, maybe I should change a few things. Maybe I'm not living the way I've been called to live. So just challenging people to raise the standard on their own lives. Raise the standard on, what you expect of yourself, and then we can raise the standards on others, and then that just puts us in a lot better place.
Yes, it does. It raises us up above the noise and the fray and calls out the uniqueness in all of us. So, Jonathan, are you able to take this message to the platform? Do you speak? Do you travel? Do you teach? Do you tell us what you're doing as putting feet to the pavement?
Without a doubt, I've had the privilege of going to, depending on the organization, churches, schools. And partnering with some of these locations and doing breakout sessions. As we're planning for next year, we have an opportunity to go to some more colleges and to have intimate sessions with like some young men groups, some male initiatives, and as well as just some opportunities open to the campus. But as far as sharing the message, like I was alluding to before, empowering the generation and waking up the sleeping giant is the goal for me, because I realized probably not too long ago, but I realized that if you're living for yourself, then you're living selfishly. But if you're living for other people selflessly, that's when impact really occurs, and that's when magic really happens. So that's the goal for me.
That is a quote right there. That is beautiful. That's powerful. Listen, when we come back after this break, we're going to talk more. I'm blessed to be a grandmother. I'm blessed to be a mother of two beautiful sons. Blessed to be a grandmother. And I know that there are areas that I need to be and should be praying for your generation. I want, when we come back, I want you to help me to underscore, to highlight some of those areas that we can pray for the millennials, so that we can help build up this generation of faithful young men, faithful young women who are processing life, they're processing their direction, they need help, hope, and direction. So when we come back, I want you to talk with me about that. Listen, stick around for more great conversation with Jonathan Jones, who's written this great book called Process, 14 Surprisingly Simple Behaviors to Skyrocket Millennials to Success. Listen, stick around, because after this break, we'll be back with more of Babbie's House. Stay with me. Welcome back to the show. I'm talking today with Jonathan Jones, the author of Process. And you can tell as you read this book and as you listen to our conversation with Jonathan Jones that he is a processor. He's a thinker. And that gives me great confidence and hope for this millennial generation. I've always had hope in this generation because Jonathan, just to kind of let our audience in on the inside, Jonathan and his family, his father, Dr. Fred Jones, his brother, and Jonathan were our neighbors. They lived directly in the house across the street from us in Marietta, Georgia, just not too awfully long ago. And so I've known Jonathan for a few years of his life, and so I've been able, you know, to check you out from afar and close up, Jonathan. And you are a blessing. You're a blessed young man. You have a lot to say, even in your young millennial years. Before we took the break, I alluded to some of the challenges that millennials are facing so that we can pray with them. And you touched on a few of them when we were off camera. But can you highlight maybe a couple of those so that we can know how to pray for millennials?
Most definitely. Just like we stated previously that millennials are seen as being lazy and unmotivated, selfish, things of that nature. And with that understanding, so I tapped into a chapter entitled Be Determined. Because, like I said before, if you're out of context or if you're out of position, of course you seem unmotivated. You don't seem determined at all. But once you find that lane and once you find that niche or once you find that niche, then I think you can go full speed ahead. But at the same time, we have to help each other find what our gift is. We have to help each other hone in on what that talent is. How does that happen? We have to try new things, and it's a collaborative effort, because if we don't collaborate, then the experiences that, you know, maybe our parents or maybe our grandparents or whomever else has had already, we miss out on that experience. We miss out on that wisdom just because we're lacking the experience, and then it's like, I'm tired of doing this. This is getting old. I quit. As opposed to if we have somebody almost as if we're riding a bike with training wheels on it, they're guiding us through, they're guiding us past the decisions they made. They're guiding us in other areas. They're saying, well, don't spend time on that. You just need to go here. Then I think that can help us with one of those areas, without a doubt.
You mentioned another area too, and that is resentment, anger. Can you allude on how millennials are dealing with things like that? So that's a area that I've seen can cause you a lot of pain, and it can make you physically sick if you hold in resentment over years. I'm mad at dad, I'm mad at mom, but they did this to me, and they owe me an apology. But when you get to that place, then you're not hurting those individuals, you're hindering your own relationship with them as well as other people. Because then you don't want to form new relationships because, you know, you're still mad about these people in the past, and you're like, they're just going to hurt me like everybody else. So that's why I wrote a chapter entitled Be Forgiving. Because we have to release ourselves of these things, because, you know, because we can pray all day and we can say, I give it to God, I give it to God. But if we don't actually let it go, we're still holding on to it with almost like we're holding a fist behind our back and we're just clenching tight. Then ready to launch.
ready to lunge. Then we'll never be able to be truly released and be free from that.
Yeah.
So be forgiving. We have to.
What other resources do you have online?
So online, I I have it rolled out to where I'm available for booking now, to where I can go wherever you like me to go internationally.
Yes.
You know, anywhere in the States, wherever there's place for impact, then I'm open to that, as
Very
well
good.
as, you know, I offer workshops. And of course, I offer my book process.
Yes, where can we find it?
You can go to jonathanjonespeaks.com.
That's awesome. Well, Jonathan Jones, thank you so very much for writing this great book called Process, 14 Surprisingly Simple Behaviors to Skyrocket Millennials to Success. And as I alluded to before, that my heart is for millennials, and I ask you intentionally some of the challenges that millennials are facing, so that people like me who are older, who believe in you, who are pushing you, pulling you, we could pray for you. So I just want to spend a moment praying for you and praying for millennials, that they might follow after God's heart and be the people that God has called them to be. So I want to pray with you. Father, I thank you so very much for Jonathan. I thank you, Lord, for taking the long-handled spoon of your goodness, reaching down into his life and just bringing up the good stuff. Thank you that he is already processing. He is thinking like a man. He is thinking about like your man. And so, Father, I thank you that you are stirring up his gifts, and other young people who are like him, you're stirring up their gifts so that they might be used to your glory, to your honor, that they might let their light so shine before men that they may see your good works and glorify your Father who is in heaven. Well, thank you so very much. Amen. And thank you, Jonathan, for coming this way. Before we end our conversation, I just want to ask you one last question before we end our show. I know that your dad is a big influence. Who are some of those other people? A teacher, a neighbor, a friend, someone that has taught you a principle about processing and about leading?
Wow. I would have to say my mother also showed me what it looks like to be determined, because my mom, growing up, she was always the first one up, last one to go to sleep. She would fix breakfast, she would fix lunches, she would help us with our homework, she would do her work at home, she would do taxes. She did all these things, she volunteered everywhere. She was a real life superwoman, or Wonder Woman, just because that's recent. Wonder Woman, if
I
you will.
love the fact that the two most influential people you mentioned are your parents. That speaks volumes, Jonathan Jones. Well, thank you, my friend, for coming this way. I wish you much success, and much success with your book called Process, 14 Surprisingly Simple Behaviors to Skyrocket Millennials to Success. Thanks for coming this way.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely, and thank you for coming this way. You know, it brings me great joy to know that you're watching shows like Babbie's House, because we have great guests like Jonathan Jones. Will you do me a favor? Go to my website at Babbie.com and reach out to me from the website, or you can email me at Babbie@Babbie.com. And while you're on the website, check out the resources. My concert calendar, for example. I sing and I lead worship services and do concerts. I also speak to women. I have the awesome opportunity to travel and to speak before women and on the subject of my books, being embraced by God, walking by faith, even when your feelings don't line up with your faith, to walk by faith and not by sight, to trust in the Lord, to understand your identity in Christ. So check it all out at Babbie.com. Well, God bless you. I'll see you the next time we get together. Until then, God bless you real good. Bye-bye for now.